Welcome to the Karen Kenney Show.
Hey, you guys, welcome to the Karen Kenney Show. I'm super duper excited to be here with you today. I'm even sporting my Bob Ross. My Bob Ross Happy Trees sweatshirt. I'm so excited. All right, look this is what I want to talk to you about. And here's the thing. I've been wanting to talk to you about this since like July. Like July, I earmarked this thing. And so here we are in October. And I'm finally getting around to it. So, as usual, welcome to the show. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you're here. And I'm going to start off by sharing a little bit about the inspiration for the show. I'm going to read you a little quote, and then I'm going to tell you a couple stories. Then we're going to dive into some of the spiritual significance of this sucker and how you can apply it to everyday life. And hopefully, fingers crossed, this sucker is going to be a little bit helpful for you and people who listen. So I'm a big fan. I'm going to hold up this book. I'm a big fan of Ryan Holiday. I have pretty much almost all of his books. This book, The Daily Stoic, 366 meditations on wisdom, perseverance, and the art of living. I love it. I read it every single morning. So back on July 1st, the heading of this one is called Do Your Job. New England kids, New England Patriot fans, you are no stranger to this phrase, do your job. But here at the top of the page is a quote from Marcus Aurelius from Meditations, his book Meditations, which I also have, I love this quote, and I've been thinking about it ever since. This is the heartbeat of this episode. It says, whatever anyone does or says, for my part, I'm bound to the good. In the same way, an emerald or gold or purple might always proclaim, whatever anyone does or says, I must be what I am and show my true colors. Oh my God, I love that so much. I'm going to say whatever anyone does or says, for my part, I'm bound to the good. In the same way, an emerald or gold or purple might always proclaim, whatever anyone does or says, I must be what I am and show my true colors. And this is the thing, like you also have your own true colors. And so the kind of the extension of that is to do your job. Whatever happens, whatever other people's jobs happen to be, like do yours, be good, do your job. Okay. But what I'm really interested in this section is about the whatever anyone does or says, I must be what I am. And this is so important, because it can be really, really easy to be tempted in life to show up in a way that is not becoming of who you are, that is not representative of the truth of you and your values and your virtues, because the world will really tempt you to be lazy, to slack off, to do a half-assed job, to cut corners, to like do it on the cheap, to look around you and go, well, everybody else is doing it, right? There's 1,000 reasons why we can like make excuses for not showing up in our truest self, like in our true colors. And I wrote a couple of things down here so I wouldn't forget to mention them. And one of the things that I said is like, who you are doesn't change, right? This is if you prescribe to this way of thinking, this kind of idea that Marcus Aurelius is putting forward, what he's saying is it doesn't matter, right, what anybody else is doing. It doesn't matter what the external circumstances are. And this is the heartbeat of this. Who you are doesn't change based on external circumstances. So I'm gonna give you a couple of examples of this. All right. So the other day I was helping somebody prepare for an event, and we had gone and gotten all this produce and done all this stuff. And it was basically going to be like creating some chow, like creating some food for a bunch of people who just like ran a race or whatever. And as we were, preparing like this massive bowl of salad, excuse me, this massive bowl of salad, the level of care that I like to put into things, some people, sure, I imagine they'd just be like, why are you doing it that way? Why don't you just X, Y, and Z? And I was kind of having this conversation and I was like, no, I'm gonna like peel these cucumbers. And I wanted to like dice the tomatoes and I wanted to do things in a very particular way because I believe that when I make food, one of the things that I'm doing is I'm literally pouring love into the food. One of the ways that we show love is to obviously take great care, to pay attention. And for me, paying attention to the details, trying to make something look nice, right? Trying to pour some energy, attention, affection, care into what I'm doing. That's one of the ways that I show love. And Neem Karoli Baba had this great quote. He was like an Indian, some people might call him a sage or a guru, definitely a teacher. And he used to say, like, feed people, serve people, love people, know God. And I've always kind of loved this idea. One of the ways that we do love people is through nurturing them and nourishing them and feeding them. And we can feed them literally physical food. Obviously, we can feed them water, but we can also feed them through our nourishment, through our care, by listening, right? Paying attention, letting them know that they matter, helping people to feel special. And I don't mean in that special, give me a cookie because give me the pat on the head. I don't mean special like that, but like that they matter, right? That we love them. And so I was over there and I'm like, I'm going to cut up these tomatoes. And they were like, no, don't. Like, still, just throw it in the bowl. It'll look, don't worry, it'll be fine. Like, we're doing it this way. It'll be good enough. And I was like, yeah, but, I want to do, because it's not that I'm stubborn, but I'm like, this is the way that I would do things. So this is what I want to do. And I want to do it this way. And, finally they were like, look, they don't care. They said, I had to learn the hard way. These people don't care. They're going to come in from running their race and they're going to be like, oh, salad, and they're going to throw it on their plate. And I turned around and I said, it doesn't matter that they don't care. I care. I care about doing my job. I care about doing this in a way that makes it looks nice. I don't care who those people are. The external circumstance for me isn't the point. It's who am I and how am I showing up? Because I want to be the kind of person that doesn't change based on external circumstances. So I hope I'm making my point. You're kind of picking up what I'm putting down. It didn't matter to me that they were all just going to run in and they weren't going to take time to admire my culinary chopping and the fact that I placed the cucumbers and the carrots and the things all nice. I didn't do it. Like, I did it for them, but not for that reason, for them to be like, oh, look, da 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 da. I just like to do things in a way that shows my level of caring, that I paid attention, that I was preparing something with love. That's what mattered to me. So I started thinking about this, and it made me also think about my sweetie. I think I've talked about this before on, on the podcast. I've used this example before. But, my sweetie, my husband, Chris Lester, he's a professional musician, He's he's wicked talented. He's ridiculous. He's almost a little annoyingly talented. He's so good. He's a multi-instrumentalist. He plays guitar and bass, and he can also play like keyboards, mandolin, drums, these other things, but he's mainly like a guitar player and a killer bass player. He's also a singer and a songwriter, a producer. He does all these things, and his whole thing is that when he goes to play a gig, because his gigs will be wild. Like one week he's playing like at a local, bar or a hangout or a pizza parlor, whatever the thing is, right? A club, restaurant, whatever. And then like days later, he can be playing in front of thousands of people on stage, right? Hampton Beach Casino Ballroom, or tour the world with Sully Erna, or whatever, play with Carole King. So it's this sweeping thing. And he's like, he's just not the kind of guy that's going to show up and give a different effort because he's in a different place. So he's not going to like be like, oh, I'm up on stage in front of thousands of people. So only here am I going to give it my all. Like only here am I going to really practice and be professional and give my best performance. It's like, no, whether the kid is standing, he's 60, he's not a kid, but he is a kid. Whether the kid is standing in the corner, right? With an acoustic guitar playing to a room full of people, like eating dinner, versus being on stage, like being a rock star, he's going to give the same amount of care, practice, focus, attention, professionalism. He's going to do his best to make, the environment better. If he's on stage with other musicians, he's going to try to make them sound better. He's going to serve the music. He's going to serve the room. He's not going to cut corners or do it half-ass or kind of like be like distracted and not giving a shit like who's in front of him. He cares about his audience. So put him in any situation and he's going to be a professional. He's going to show up on time. He's going to show up prepared. Do you know what I'm saying? He's not going to bring his B game or his C game. He's always going to show up with his A game because that's who he is. And he's here to show his true colors and he's here to do his damn job, right? And as Marcus Aurelius tells us, right? I must be what I am and show my true colors. And we're showing our true colors all the time. I often say to people like, who you are doesn't change given the external circumstances, meaning when you squeeze an orange, I always say to people, right, my clients, when you squeeze an orange, what comes out? And they're like, orange juice? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, if you squeeze, quote unquote, squeeze a lemon, right? Or squeeze an apple or whatever the fruit is, right? When you squeeze a tomato, what comes out? Tomato juice. You squeeze a lemon, what comes out? Lemon juice, right? When you squeeze us and you put us as people in different circumstances, I want to be, right? Look, I'm not friggin' perfect. Hey, newsflash. I'm only kidding, right? I still put me in a high pressure, situation. I hope and pray that I can still show up kind and compassionate and don't act mean towards anybody, right? That I can keep any anxiety under control, that I can maintain a loving presence. I'm not saying I always get it right or perfect, but that's my hope. I want to do my damn job. I want to show my true colors, which is that I am one of God's kids, that I am love. I am here to get better at giving and receiving love. To me, that's the job. To me, that's the job. The Stoics might say the job is to do good or be good. To me, that's the same, right? To be who I am and to show up and to demonstrate. A Course in Miracles says to teach is to demonstrate. And we are demonstrating all the time through our thoughts, because our thoughts often become our behaviors, our actions, our words, our choices, right? We are always demonstrating who we are by our thoughts, our words, our actions, those choices that we make, the behaviors that we have, right? All that stuff. And here's something that I know to be true. We really especially me as a word lover. If you've listened to this podcast at all, I love words. I love to know the origins of words. I love to know how we apply words, the context of words, right? All of it. I was a writer and a storyteller, right? I am a word lover. And one of the things that I know is that we put a lot of emphasis on what people say. We're like, well, they said. And I'm like, yeah, well, sometimes what people say doesn't mean jack shit, because there's a total incongruency between what they're saying and what they're doing. And we want those things to kind of be in alignment, right, as much as possible. So one of the things that I often say is people will understand what you believe by watching what you do. I'm going to say that again. People will understand what you believe. Literally, think about your belief system, right? The things that you believe, the stories that you tell, the narratives that you hold, these beliefs will always leak out into the choices you make, the things you do, everything from everything. Just think about all the aspects of being human, where you decide to live, who you decide to marry or not marry, where you decide to shop, how you vote, everything. People will understand what you believe by watching what you do. And all you have to do, we see it so like we see it so clearly when it comes to politics. You just look at what people campaign on and what they say really matters and da 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 da. And I understand that I just want to be somewhat fair, that I understand that when you run on a platform, you're running on supposedly your heart, your values, these things you really want to do. But then, there's different levels of government and there's other people, other branches who can, get in your way if you're trying to get something done, etc. However, right, a lot of times people will say one thing while they're doing something totally different. And people will come to know what you believe by watching what you do. And this is so important, especially for parents. You have little ones watching you and they are not missing a thing. They are clocking everything, right? So you can say one thing. And a lot of times, I've had parents say, like, I don't understand why, my child doesn't listen to me. I don't, and I'm like, a lot of times I'm like, okay, well, if you give them a consequence, like, hey, if you don't get in bed, in the next 5 minutes, you're going to lose this privilege or whatever. If you don't, I'm fill in the blank, whatever. If they have chores, right? If they don't do their chores, or if they don't, put their phone down at the dinner table or whatever the thing is, and you give them, call it a consequence or call it it's not a barrier. What's the thing called? Boundary. If you set a boundary and you say X equals this, like if you don't do this, I'm going to do this. And then you don't keep your word, you don't do your job, right? Again, your kids are going to come to understand and know what you really believe, who you really are, how you're going to show up, based on watching what you do. Words aren't enough. We need that follow through. So it's like when people say they care about you, and I'm seeing this right now with the government shutdown and, saying that we care about all Americans. However, they're about to let like SNAP benefits and food stamps and like, we're going to let people starve. We're going to let kids starve. We're going to let people go hungry. We're not going to take care of our people. Well, how can we say that we care about everybody, that everybody's equal? All these things that this country is founded on, if we're not willing, right? Again, get mad at me or not get mad at me. This is kind of what's going down right now, but people are going to understand who you are and what you believe by watching what you do. And I did a podcast about this a wicked long time ago. And I'm not sure if this is what I called the episode, but I know I talked about this, that your actions are the voice of your heart, right? Your actions are the voice of your heart. So for me, again, going back to the salad, it's like my actions, me wanting to prepare that salad a particular way, it was the voice of my heart. And I try to do most things that way. So, I mean, all of this is just like a way for me to say, like, you have an opportunity in every single moment to show your true colors, to be the you that you are, right? Coming back here, do your job today. Whatever happens, whatever other people's jobs happen to be, you do yours. Do good. Be good. Don't let other people stop you from being who you are. And this also applies to one final example I'll give you. You could be put in a situation and, there are times, how do I say this? There are times when you might be in relationships with certain people and maybe they're not as giving as you, or they're not as attentive as you, or they don't show up the same way or whatever. And other people are bearing witness to this. This has happened to me a lot, actually, in my life, where people have said to me, why do you keep doing X, Y, and Z when they don't even X, Y, and Z, right? And they'll say, why are you still nice to them, da, 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 da. And one of the things I always say, and caveat to this before I tell you what I always say, one of the caveats to this is I understand their care and concern. Like if your friends think you're being taken advantage of, or if your friends think that you're like overgiving, or it kind of starts to look like you're being a doormat. I'm not talking about that. Like, don't let people wipe their feet on the back of your head. You know what I mean? That's not this. But one of the things I'll sometimes, well, like let's say somebody's being snippy or a little bitchy with you or whatever, and you respond calmly and compassionately. You don't take the bait. You don't start to get snacky back. You don't start attacking or feeling like you need to prove something. You just maintain being kind or whatever. And people will be like, why do you let them talk to you? Why do you let them do that? Why do you put up with that or whatever? And one of the things I'll often say is, and look, I don't always pass that test either, right? I can have a sharp tongue if the occasion calls for it. But I really do try to let my actions be the voice of my heart, to kind of let my beliefs, what I believe, that we're all extensions of the divine, that we are all God's kids, that there is a spark of divine light in each of us, even the people that you think are a total colossal pain in your ass. Look, in fairness, God knows I've been one to many people throughout my lifetime. But here's what I often say. I'm finally going to say the damn quote, is that I'll often say, I don't want to let them, I'm not going to let their actions, right? Their behaviors, how they're being, change who I am and how I be, right? How I like to show up. I don't want to stop being myself just because they're acting like a dick. I don't, and I'm not saying there's not a particular time when it's important that you kind of like, like clap back a little bit, that you like, tss, you give a little, tss, as a Swaran often says, you don't have to bite, but you can hiss like a little snake, like, tss, sometimes that's appropriate. But I don't want to like, I think it was Michelle Obama that said when they go low, like we go high or whatever. It's like, don't let people drag you down into their muck, into their hatred, into their, bullshit, into their like just not being the person that you are. It's really important. And this is why I just think like having spiritual practices, having a DSP, having spiritual community is so important, because these people and these practices and maybe like the books that you read and the way that you are trying to align your mind, right? I always say the assignment is alignment, trying to align your mind with love. And love can be fierce. Love isn't some wimpy little doormat kind of love, can be fierce. Is we want to align ourselves with that. Know who you are. Know what matters to you. Know what you are not willing to compromise, right? That you're not going to act a particular way just because they are, because we're not going to change who we are based on external circumstances. So you don't do it half-assed just because everybody else is. Even if they call you a suck up, even if they call you, oh, you're just trying to look, no, I'm just being me and doing me. And if you want to cut corners and you want to be fill in the blank, whatever language you would use, right? If you want to do it your way, that's your way. Go ahead and do it your way. It's not up to me. I'm not over here trying to like make you look bad. I'm not over here judging you. You do you, right? I'm just over here and I'm going to do me. It's like if I show up to teach a yoga class, I'm not going to be like, oh, there's only 5 of you or whatever. I would show up and do my best if there were 20 or more. It's like, no, you got to love who's in front of you. You got to be the teacher that you are. Be the human that you are. Show your true colors, right? We each have our own purpose. That's a whole other episode. But you have your own, right, purpose. You have your own assignment, your own way of doing things that only you can do. So this is me encouraging you to not let the slack is or whatever, fill in the blank. However people are going to act, the people who are going to be like shortchanging people and cutting corners and doing it on the sly and acting a particular way. It's like, no. And again, I go back to, it doesn't matter to me that they don't care about the presentation of the damn salad. I care. And that's how I want to do things. Do you know what I'm saying? So I hope this has landed for you in some way. I hope it's helpful for you in some way. And I hope it encourages you to, if you don't already have clarity about what are the things that matter to you. And if people were to just, let me leave you with this. If people were to stand back right now and observe you over like a week's time, and I want to say like a week's time, or let's even say like a couple of weeks or a month's time, because, we have bad days and seasons or whatever. But if people were able to consistently kind of observe you, right? If they were able to kind of witness you in action across all the different areas of your life, what would they come to understand about you and what you believe by watching what you do? So this is an invitation for us to also kind of zoom out and kind of go above the timeline and take a good gander at ourselves. What would people come to understand about you and what you believe based on watching what you do right now? What are some of the words they might come away with? What are some of the adjectives or descriptive words? How might they see you and how you're showing up and what you're doing and all that stuff? Now, this is not an exercise in judgment. This is an exercise in curiosity. Just be curious. Start to observe yourself. Self-observation. This is a highly spiritual principle, often talked about in the Bhagavad Gita, and Swami Kripalu and many people have said it in different ways. But self-observation without judgment is one of the highest spiritual practices there is. So just observe yourself, right? Observe yourself. And I think I did an episode on this, and I said, if we squeezed you, what would come out? Because if we squeeze an orange comes out. If we squeeze you, what's going to come out of you? So I'd love to know. So drop me a little note or something, like hit me up. Some days I'm like, oh man, if you squeezed me right now, what would come out? And that's when I usually know that I need an attitude adjustment, right? I need a little tweak. I need to just slow down and get my mind right. And again, return to love. The assignment is alignment. So thank you so much for being here with me and spending some time. I really appreciate you. I'm sending you so much love. Thank you for being a part of the Karen Kenney Show podcast community. Means a lot to me. You can find everything I'm up to on KarenKenney.com. Don't forget that second E in my last name, Kenney. You can see how to work together to join the Nest, my spiritual membership and mentoring group. It's an amazing community, how to work together one-to-one, etc., etc. And if you want to get my emails and find out the happenings and to get this podcast delivered right into your inbox every Thursday morning, then you just go to KarenKenney.com/sign up. And that would be amazing. So thank you for being here. I appreciate you, as I always say at the end of every show, because, part of the reason why I do this show is to stay connected to you guys, also to spread a little bit more love in the world. And, you get to do that too. So wherever you go, may you leave the animals, the people, yourself, the place and the environment, wherever you are in that place, may you leave it better than how you first found it. And wherever you go, may you and your presence and your energy and your love and your beliefs and actions, how you're showing up, may they be a blessing. Bye.